What's up, guys? Iceman here. Welcome to Haunting Tales. So, this story is absolutely horrifying, and it reminds me of the situation I was in when I was a kid. I know that I talked about that on this channel just a little bit. How I had seemingly an encounter with, I guess, is what they seem to be calling Dogman today. Back when I was a kid, I didn't really know what the hell to call it. I just knew it was this upright, standing, towering, wolf-like humanoid creature, all right? It scared the hell out of me. And maybe I'll get into that a bit at the end of this video. But nonetheless, you guys got to hear what this kid ran into. So, they were about 14 years old at the time. They lived in New Mexico. All right, his name was Aaron. And Aaron was invited to go camping at this Oasis State Park, I think is what it was called. This really unusual place. There was trees everywhere, a beautiful lake, nice little campground, trails, and so forth. Things that you wouldn't really expect to see in New Mexico. And perhaps there's something else that you wouldn't expect to see there either, and we'll get into that in just a minute. But Aaron, they went to the campground, this beautiful place, birds everywhere, snakes, some nice trees, cacti, nice little trail leading from his tent to a small lake. And the campground was like this circular patch. His tent was right here. And then his friend's tent was right here. Now his friend was there with his dad. The dad was the adult in the group, and his daughter. So 3 people in this tent, and then Aaron was by himself over here. There was about 50 feet between the tents, and his tent, Aaron's tent, was over by the tree line, and a little trail ran from the door of his tent over to the pond. So what Aaron did, after they had dinner over the campfire, they went their separate ways into their tents, and the sun began to set. Aaron got up out of his tent. There was a bathroom, a public bathroom, it was kind of private, but it was for the campground. No one else was there at the time. It was about a half mile down the trail through a wooded path. So he got up out of his tent and he decided, he's like, I don't know if I want to walk all the way down there. It's getting kind of dark. So he just took a piss on the tree about 15 feet away from his tent. And then after that, he got back in and he went to bed. And that's when horror struck. It was the wee hours of the night, and he heard it. A deep, bellowing howl. He said it sounded unlike a coyote because he knew coyotes. He lived in New Mexico. He said this sounded deeper, more guttural, more pronounced. And it sounded like it was only a couple feet away outside of his tent door. And then he heard another howl about 30 feet away, not far from where he took a leak, into the woods. And then he lay silent. A couple of minutes later, he had to take a leak, like big time again. It was silent, so he started unzipping his tent. And he had his little LED lantern that he was going to take with him. He unzipped the door about halfway up, and then he heard something again. A sort of crunching sound in the distance. Something was walking upright from how it sounded. and it made its way onto the gravel where the pent lay. So we heard this crunching, this ruffling of things. And what he saw was the outline of something so unusual that he became frozen in fear. He said he saw this figure about 10 feet away. And he's sitting here like this with his light. Like he zipped up the tent. He unzipped it like this. He was peering through now the crack, and he had his lantern out like this. And he was watching the thing. He said there was this monstrosity hunched over like this, bending down. And as he looked at it, it began to stand up. And you could hear its knees and its joints like cracking a little bit, which is crazy. I feel like I've heard this before. Because what's weird is with the Dogman or with the werewolf, if you think about it, they're often spotted standing upright, but they also are said anyway to be able to get on all fours and run like a dog. So it's like their joints are made for both. I mean, they're really unusual creatures. There's really nothing else like that. I mean, black bears can stand up on their hind legs if they want, but they're slow. It's not very optimal. They just do it to reach up high into trees and stuff, and sometimes for intimidation purposes. But they can't sprint upright. Whereas it seems that these Dogman can. Which is what's so crazy about this story. It stood up, and you could he remembers this clearly. And these visuals were vivid. He said the mane on it looked like a coyote, but it was how he described it was that the shadow this thing brought onto him from the moon, the stature of this thing, the silhouette, the outline, was larger than any life form he's ever seen. Admittedly, he said, yeah, I was a kid at the time. I don't know. I mean, it's not like it was as big as a damn elephant. But he was alluding to the notion that this thing was potentially 7 to 8 feet tall. And robust. Hulking. Looking up at him. And he was in his tent with a little lantern on like this. Frozen in fear. He said the creature made its way toward the tree where he took a leak. And it sort of looked back at him. And Aaron would have shut his tent at this moment, but he was so afraid, he was frozen in fear, that he didn't. He just sat there and stared. And he watches this creature walk over to the tree that he took a piss on earlier. And the creature looks back at him. And it crouches down again onto its hind legs. And you could hear the joints popping. You know how... I don't want to do it to my fingers, but he could hear the popping sounds. As this thing got back down to almost a sitting position, but with its forepaws on the ground. And it was sniffing his piss. You know how dogs mark their territory? I don't know. Years later, Aaron's friends told him, because he's only told the story a few times. Probably gets made fun of when he tells the story. But they say, you know what? The reason you might have survived that encounter could be because you marked your territory. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's just bogus. But nonetheless, what happened after that? He saw this creature crack down and then looked back at him. And Aaron was staring at it in fear. And that was the best shot he got at it. His light was kind of gleaming onto it from his tent. And the character, creature, whatever, looked back at him. And it slowly started standing up again. Pop, crack, pop, 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 pop. Upright, robust, hulking. He said the eyes weren't glowing, like how these things are often described. But he said that the way it looked at him, with this binocular vision, these eyes, he said the way it looked at him was something like how a predator would look at you. He said it was just hulking there looking at him like it could rip him apart without issue, without any hassle, with ease. And he'd be a bloody mess before anyone could respond to the scene. He said it stared at him like he was a weakling, like he could just get destroyed by this creature. But then, he said, like a shadow, like a flash, it was gone. No, he didn't say it was gone, but he said that it bolted out into the woods faster than how it arrived. Just gone. And that's how these things are often said to move. With ferocity, with quickness, with agility, with stealth like a phantom in the night. And that's how this thing moved. But he told his friends about it the next morning. The girl, the boy. He asked them if they heard the howls. They said, oh, yeah, we heard the howls. We just assumed they were coyotes. He didn't want to tell them the story. He just told them about the howls that he heard. So they went out hiking that day and they saw tracks from coyotes, which kind of confirmed to him, okay, I definitely heard that, but I mean, did I see that? And that night, he insisted to sleep in the tent with the dad and his friend and the daughter. And then the next day, he acted like he was sick. They were supposed to camp for another couple nights, but he said he wasn't feeling well, and they ended up contacting his mother, and she came and picked up Aaron and took him home because he wasn't going to have it. He didn't sleep at all that second night, just thinking about this situation. And it lives with him to this day. Crazy. And I know I told you guys about this in my previous videos, but when I was a kid, about 8 years old, something just wasn't sitting well with me one night. So I went across the hallway in our house, and I knocked on my parents' door, and they let me in. It was the wee hours of the night. It was pitch black outside, maybe with a moon, I don't know. My mom disgruntlingly let me in. And my dad was frustrated. He didn't like me being a little wimp, right? Because, I mean, he wanted me to be brave. I was a son. And I was just afraid. I don't know why I was afraid. But then I sleep on the side of the bed, the very edge of the bed. Then my mom next to me, then my dad on the other side. This is a water bed. And from me, there was about 5 feet of space between me and the wall. And then there was a TV in the corner. And I fell asleep. I think. Or maybe I didn't. All I know is I was on my side, and I slowly started opening my eyes, and I saw this creature standing over me. It was standing on the wood floor. Its head was almost reaching the ceiling. It had these pointy ears like this, and a long snout, and glowing eyes. And it almost had like a garb or a chainmail on it with these ears poking out. And I was on my side like this, and I just look up at the thing. And like I said, its head almost reached the ceiling. And I was so scared. I was just terrified. So I don't know what I did. I wished it away. For several seconds, I was watching it, just standing there. And I could tell it was just breathing. And I don't think it was angry or pissed or wanted to kill me. I don't know. It's just watching me. It's like it was observing me. I mean, maybe it was for protecting me? I don't know. Some people say that these are protectors. Right now, I have a German Shepherd dog. She's a beautiful animal. But you guys should have seen this thing. I feel like I'll never forget it. But it stood over me like that, and just breathing, watching me, observing me. I was afraid. I was quite afraid. And I closed my eyes and I just wished it away. I wished it away. I wished it away. And that's all I remember from it. I refused to open my eyes again and look at it. I don't know what happened. Yeah, could it have been a figment in my imagination? Yeah, I guess so. Could it have been a dream? Yeah, I guess so. But what was it? It was so real. It was so alive. Everything about the room. I remember everything about it. The TV, the floor, the sounds, the smells. The being in front of me. But anyway, maybe I'll touch on that more in a future video. But I'm going to cover more of these Dogman werewolf stories on this channel. Maybe some Bigfoot stuff, I don't know. But if you guys will like this video, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to this page, hit the bell so you're notified next time I post a video. Become a patron if you want to support these videos. Links in the description below. Let me know your thoughts on this stuff. I mean, this kid, Aaron, was it real what he saw? Do you believe some of these accounts? Or have you seen a dog man? I mean, I like to call them werewolves. Where the hell did this dog man phrase come from? I don't know. I mean, I always thought they were werewolves. But then again, this other thing that I saw, I didn't think it was a werewolf. It was... What's crazy is I looked this thing up. It looks like that, what do you call it? Anubis? Anubis, is that how you say it? Look it up. That's what it looks like. But I mean, it didn't strike me as a werewolf. It was more elegant than a werewolf. It was more wise than a werewolf. You know, werewolf's like, you know, but this thing wasn't like a werewolf, man. It was sophisticated. It was intelligent. To the point where I almost don't want to call it an it. I don't know. I'll explore this in future videos, but anyway. More haunting tales to come. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace be with you.